Do you want to reach more listeners, increase your revenue, and gain a competitive advantage? Well, WordPress plus Elementor plus Elementor Hosting is the perfect combination to create your WordPress podcast website. Hey there, I'm Luke. In this video, we'll build a WordPress podcast website using Elementor. Let's begin by answering some of the common questions you may already have. Why should I create a website when I'm already using a streaming service? While you may already be using Spotify or SoundCloud for your podcast, having your own website will increase traffic by having more SEO content. It will also better retain your listeners as they will be more focused on only your podcasts. Let's face it, it takes a lot of listens to earn a lot of money on streaming platforms. You can increase revenue by adding donation buttons and subscriptions to your own website. Why WordPress? WordPress is the most popular and versatile website building platform, powering 43% of websites worldwide. WordPress offers many ways to extend and customize your website. Another reason we love WordPress is its active and supportive global community. Plus, it's open source, which means you have full ownership of your content now and in the future. Okay, but what does Elementor have to do with all of this? Elementor Pro is a WordPress plugin that gives you even more control over your website design. Elementor is a drag and drop builder that gives you the power to visually design every part of your website. We'll use it to create an amazing looking and fully dynamic library of your content. Where should I host my website? Since we are already using Elementor Pro for the website, let's use Elementor to host our website as well. This keeps all our bills in one place. I recommend this to all my clients who are just getting started. Elementor Hosting comes with the Elementor Pro page builder pre-installed. It's the fastest and safest way to get started building any WordPress website. Best of all, the client will have full ownership and support once you are ready to hand it over. Before you begin this tutorial, it's important that you have already uploaded your podcast to Spotify or SoundCloud. If you are creating this site for a client, then go ahead and have their playlist page open in a new tab. For this tutorial, I will use the Elementor podcast channel on Spotify. Let's get started. To begin, I'm going to sign up for an Elementor hosting account. Doing so will provide me with everything that I need to be able to create my WordPress podcast website. Not only am I provided with fast, secure web hosting, which includes an SSL certificate for security, daily backups, and VIP support, but it will also automatically install WordPress and Elementor Pro for me. I will first visit the Elementor website by entering elementor.com in the address bar of my browser. Next, I will select the Get Started. Here I can choose what type of website I'd like to create, or select the Start from Scratch option, which is what I'll do as I'll choose the kit a bit later on in this lesson. Next, we'll be taken to a screen where we'll be presented with the option to choose the basic plan. I will select the Buy option. Here I'll need to enter a few basic details to create my account, like my email address and password. Next, I'll need to enter my billing information. I then will click on the Continue link. I can now complete my purchase by entering my payment details and selecting the Pay Now option. I will then be taken to a confirmation screen where I'll select the Start Creating Your Website button. On the next screen, I will first enter a temporary name for my website. Don't worry, we'll learn how to connect a custom domain later on. I will verify my temporary domain name choice and select Next when ready. I'll then be offered to start with a kit I desire. Once again, I'll select the option to start from scratch. Elementor will then install WordPress and the Hello theme on my hosting. The process will take a few minutes, so sit back and relax. There, all done. Before I take a look at my created website, let's explore my Elementor account dashboard. I can first see the new website I've just created. Any additional website I choose to add in the future will also appear in this section. Over on the left, I can see the navigation for the main areas of my account. I have options for subscriptions, teams, brand and business, FAQ and support, and community. In the top right corner, if I select my avatar, I will be able to view and edit any of my profile information. Back to websites now. If I hover over my website, you'll see I'm presented with several options. The first two options will redirect me to specific areas of the website admin. For now, I'll select Manage this website. On the website management screen, I'll now be shown the overview. This screen displays my site information, such as the name and subscription ID. It also has the site lock options. This keeps your website hidden from visitors and search engines until you're ready. A pin can be shared with people I would like to be able to view the website. On the left panel, I can see a new list of options. Manage domains. These tools help you with your domain settings. From this page, I can connect a custom domain name I have already purchased, or buy a domain using Elementor's partnership with Hover Domains. Email account. From this screen, I can set up an authentication from my custom domain's email address. This authentication ensures that emails will be sent from the custom domain you set in WordPress and third-party apps, and not your default Elementor domain. Backups. Elementor automatically backs up your website every 24 hours and saves it for 30 days. You can export or restore your site to any previous version or create a new backup now. Advanced. This screen is where you may set up a staging environment for your website. The staging environment is a separate, private clone of your live website used primarily for testing changes before they're made public. Also located on this screen are links to the SFTP and PHP MyAdmin. These are helpful for more advanced users. They allow you to access your files and database directly. If you are unfamiliar with these, you should not make changes to them as they can have a dramatic effect on your website. Additionally, there are debugging and troubleshooting tools for you to use, such as resetting the WP login attempts if you, your client, or another contributor has been locked out. Also located here is the toggle to enable the WordPress script debug. This will display all PHP errors, notices, and warnings on your live site. It is generally for more advanced users and should be left in the off position unless you are having critical errors on your website. Community. By selecting this link, you'll be redirected to the global Elementor Facebook community. Here you can find tips, ask questions, and get feedback from over 150,000 Elementor users just like you. Please keep in mind that this is not an official support form. Users here cannot assist you with billing and account issues. For official support from Elementor, you may select the chat icon where you can get help from the Elementor team. Okay, with the Elementor account dashboard fully explored, I'll now return to my website. Here I am in the WordPress dashboard. At the top of the page, I can see the WordPress toolbar. This provides helpful links to various areas of the website and will adapt accordingly as well. For example, if I visit the front end of my website, I'll have more options on this toolbar. Please note, this toolbar will only display on the website for a logged-in admin user. Back in the dashboard, on the left-hand side, you'll see the main menu options. This menu contains many important areas which include hosting options, blog posts, media files, the pages of our website, Elementor settings, templates associated with our website, appearances, which is where you'll find the themes and menu options, plugins, users, tools, and settings. For now, we'll take a look at the most common areas you're likely to visit frequently. Here are some time-saving links that direct you to the Elementor hosting settings. From here, you can quickly change your hosting settings, create backups, connect a domain, create a staging version of your website, and manage the advanced caching. The activity log is useful for tracking all activity on the website. If your website has additional users, you can keep track of the recent edits. It also helps protect you if your site is compromised. The first areas we'll explore are posts. And you may already be wondering, what's the difference between a page and a post? Well, that's a great question and one I can answer quickly. Consider pages as your static content that rarely needs to be changed. This might be, for instance, your About page and is regarded as a permanent item. Posts, on the other hand, are your blog entry articles, which are added to regularly. This type of content helps drive more traffic to your website via search and social media. Posts have several additional functions that pages don't, and we'll discuss these very shortly. Let's visit the posts from the dashboard by selecting the Posts menu option. Here, we only have one post titled Hello World. This post is automatically created with WordPress and is just a placeholder. I will select the Edit option in the WordPress block editor. As you can see, it has the title and the content area the same as pages. I can add content blocks to the posts in the WordPress editor, or I can edit the posts in Elementor. Some users like to add post content in the WordPress editor, or give a person in their team permission to add blog content only by WordPress. The choice is up to you. The primary difference between posts is found in the right side panel. Here, I can assign the post to a category. By default, there is only one category called Uncategorized. Additional categories may be created and the posts assigned to them. Similar to categories, there are tags. You may be familiar with these via the social media platform Twitter. They are also used in a very similar way to filter search results for your visitors. Another difference posts have is they are generally assigned a featured image. These are what show up in the blog archive grid and when shared on social media. I can add a featured image by selecting the link to open the media library. From there, I can select an existing image or drag in a new one local desktop. We will learn more about this next in the media library lesson. I can write an excerpt for my post. These show up in your posts grid, as well as social media and search engines. If you do not manually enter an excerpt here, one will be displayed using the first sentence of your content. Next is the comments option. From here, you can enable or disable commenting on your posts. It's generally a good idea to turn these off if you do not need them. You can learn more about posts and blogs by visiting my other tutorials. Let's return to the dashboard for now. Next, I'll explore the WordPress media library. To do this, I will navigate to the Media menu in the WordPress dashboard. The media library is a database for all the site's media files, such as images, videos, PDFs, and MP3s. Our media library is currently made up of placeholder images as we decided to start with a wireframe kit. To add additional media, you may use the Add New button, or you can drag files from your local desktop to the media library. When adding media files such as images, it is also important to upload a smaller file size for performance. Images should be edited in an external application such as Photoshop or Canva before uploading them to your site. Once added to the library, selecting the media file will open up details about it. The title, alt tag, and descriptions are all important to search engine rankings and accessibility. These should be edited each time media such as an image is uploaded to the library. We'll be adding some more life and color to this soon, so stick around. For now, let's head back to the dashboard. In the WordPress dashboard, I'll navigate to the Pages menu and select the All Pages option. Here, I am presented with a list of all the pages currently associated with my website. Since we chose to start without a kit, only one page has been created for us, called Sample Homepage. Hovering over the page title displays several options. I can select the Edit with Elementor link, or select more options to display a drop-down of other useful functions. Adding a new page is done in a few simple steps. Select the Add New button near the top of the page. Give the new page a name. I'll name this one Sandbox. The page will then open in the Elementor editor automatically. Let's return to the dashboard by selecting the hamburger icon in the top corner and then selecting the Exit option. The Comments library is where all comments can be found and moderated. From here, you may review, edit, and trash the comments on your website. Due to bots and spammers, it's good practice to only allow comments to be published to your site once they are approved by an administrator. This is done in the Settings menu. We will learn more about this in just a bit. This is where you find all the tools and settings for the Elementor plugin. It is a good idea to familiarize yourself with these. Let's take a brief look at each. Settings. We visited this page briefly earlier when we installed our kit. it has a tab display that uses the following options. General. This is where you may select the types of posts that are allowed to be edited with Elementor, enabling global fonts and colors, and helping you improve Elementor by sharing anonymous data on how you use the product. Integrations. Here you may enter the API keys for many third-party applications, such as Google Maps, Facebook, Adobe, and many others. You'll need to refer to the documentation at the provider on how to generate these keys. Advanced. These settings will allow you to enable or disable certain features on your website, such as Google Fonts and the ability to import files such as .json and .svg. You may visit the Elementor Help Center to learn more about these settings. Features. This page allows you to enable or disable new or optional features for Elementor. To ensure backwards compatibility, new features that have a major code change are generally introduced gradually and must be enabled manually. We did this earlier to enable the containers. Listed at the top are the latest features. Some of these are still being developed, and a status is used to let you know the stages of their development. Submissions. This page is a directory of all the submissions that have been captured by your Elementor forms. If for any reason a completed form is not delivered to your email or was deleted, you may also locate it here. These can be exported to a spreadsheet format. Custom fonts, icons, code. These are used to add and store additional items to your website as follows. Fonts. You may add additional fonts to your website here. This is useful if you have a font file from a third party, or you wish to load a specific Google font that is hosted on your server rather than Google. This can speed up load time and is also required in some countries that do not allow Google to be accessed due to regulations. Icons. By default, Elementor makes use of the Font Awesome library icons. However, you may also upload icons from other trusted third parties here. Code. Occasionally, you might need to add additional code to your website header, such as a tracker for analytics. This can be added in this location rather than modifying the PHP files. Role Manager. From here, you can grant certain levels of access to users on your website. For example, you may wish an author to be able to write content in WordPress and not be able to use the Elementor editor. Tools. This is a tabbed page similar to the settings that contain the following. General. The following options may be found here. From here, you may regenerate the CSS and data. It is helpful occasionally after major updates, as some CSS and other data may be cached and your page does not load correctly. You may also sync the template library if you experience issues. Enable or disable safe mode can be used when you are faced with compatibility and other critical errors. When it is enabled, it will disable all other plugins and themes, allowing only the editor to run. This can help you troubleshoot the cause. The debug bar should only be enabled by developers who wish to test out a certain extension that they are creating and not on live websites. Replace URL. When moving a website from one location to another, it may still contain dependencies to assets on the old site, such as links or images. You may enter the URL of the old website and the new one to locate and alter these addresses in the database. It is often used when migrating the HTTP to HTTPS. Version control. If you are experiencing serious issues after an update, you can downgrade to a previous version of the plugin here. It is best to identify the source of the issue and contact support from Elementor or the third-party developer that may need to update their plugin. You may also choose to become a beta tester and access early releases, but as a new user, you should not activate this quite yet, especially on a live website. Maintenance mode. Occasionally, you might need to take your website offline for a short amount of time. You may create an under construction page and design it to be displayed here to visitors. During that time, only administrators may access the site. Import and export kit. In addition to the kit library from Elementor, you may wish to export your current site as a kit and import it to another website to save time. This can quickly be done from here. You may also delete a recently installed kit if you find it does not suit your needs. System info. Occasionally, you may experience a technical issue due to server resources, plugin versions, and others. Many times, support or community members may ask you for details of your server and other environments. These can be located here. Getting started. From here, you can watch the training video on using Elementor, as it may answer some questions you may have. Get help. Selecting this will redirect you to the Elementor Help Center in a new tab, where you can find hundreds of articles on using the Elementor plugins and hosting. Next, we have the template menu that contains the following sub-items. Save templates. Creating templates that can be reused is a great way to save time when you have layouts that are repeated on more than one page. When editing a page, you may select the folder icon to insert these as a new instance on your page, or you may use the template widget to display them on multiple pages and then edit the template from here to update all the instances it is displayed. This can also be exported to another Elementor website and used as backups. Pop-ups. This is where all your created Elementor pop-ups are stored. To create or edit a pop-up, visit this library page, then select the Add New or navigate to your saved pop-up and select the Edit with Elementor link. Theme Builder. One of the most powerful features of Elementor is the Theme Builder. From here, you can create dynamic headers, footers, single post or page layouts, and archives that take the place of your traditional theme parts. We'll learn about these in just a little while. Landing pages. Landing pages are used in websites to serve a specific purpose. These are not to be confused with a home page. They are typically used in a sales funnel, or where you want visitors to remain on the page rather than navigating to the rest of your site. They typically do not use the header or footer. For restaurants, this may be used to display a menu that is reached by a QR code on the table tent. Kit Library. We visited this page at the beginning when we installed our kit. This is where all the Elementor created site kits are displayed to be imported to your website. From here, you may quickly create a template that will be saved in your main library. Categories. If you create dozens of templates, you may wish to assign them to a category to stay more organized. You may use this page to create and edit your categories. In our pursuit to master the basics of WordPress, let's now learn what themes are. A WordPress theme is a collection of files that work together to create what I see and decide how my site behaves. To locate the themes in the WordPress dashboard, navigate to the Appearance menu and then select the Themes option. Here, I'll see a list of themes that I currently have installed on my website. When I signed up for Elementor Hosting, it automatically installed a theme for me called Hello. The Hello theme was developed and is maintained by Elementor. It is a very lightweight theme, meaning it loads quickly, and works in harmony with the Elementor website builder. If I would like another theme, I can visit the theme repository by selecting Add New. As you can see, the themes here look really nice. But the truth is, if you install one, it most likely will not look like these pretty pictures you see here. The customizer can also be located in the Appearance menu. These are the customizable settings for each WordPress theme. What is displayed here will depend on the theme you have activated. The Hello theme is a very lightweight theme, and only a few items are located in its customizer. I can exit out of the customizer to return to the dashboard. Menus are important as they provide a standardized method for your visitors to navigate through the website. They come in all shapes and sizes, and there is no limit to how many menus the website has. Back in the WordPress dashboard, I'll head over to the Appearance menu and select the Menus option. Since we have not created our pages yet, there is not really much to add here yet. We will return to this later on. Next, let's explore what plugins are and find out how they can enhance our website. Think of plugins like apps on your smartphone. Plugins can add new features and functionality, or simply extend the capabilities of existing ones. Let's take a look at what plugins we currently have on our website. If we head over to the Plugins area in the dashboard, we can see the list of plugins installed. If the plugin is light blue, it means this plugin is currently activated, whereas any white are installed but not activated. We don't have many plugins installed, just the following. Activity Log, which is a useful plugin to keep track of any changes being made on our website. Elementor and Elementor Pro. These allow us to create beautiful pixel-perfect pages We'll be taking a deeper look at these very soon, so stick around. To add a new plugin, I will select the Add New button. This will take me to the WordPress plugin repository, where I can find an extensive library. Next in our WordPress dashboard is the Users menu. The amount of users you have will depend on the type of website you are building. For most business websites, you will generally have a very small number of users, even just yourself as in this case. By navigating to my Users menu, I can see my profile listed. Here, I can edit it by selecting the link. In the user preferences, you can set personal options like the color palette for your dashboard, the site language, and more. You can also change the author's name that is displayed in various places on the website, such as the posts and the top bar. With Elementor Hosting, your username is automatically assigned to you when your website was created, and should be unique. This cannot be changed. However, you can set a nickname that is displayed publicly by editing the field and selecting it in the drop-down below. The user menu is also where you can change the password for yourself or other users if needed. It is good practice to change these regularly every few months, or if you have a reason to believe it was compromised. Be sure to save the changes at the bottom of the screen. The Tools menu is where you can find several functions for your site. Let's take a look at them briefly. The first is the Categories and Tags converter. If you have created categories or tags for your posts and now wish to change them, you may convert them here. The next two options will allow you to import and export your data to and from another WordPress site. This is helpful for migrating data. Another tool is Site Health. This will examine your website and report any errors or improvements. Our site is listed as good health, with only a couple of caching suggestions we can ignore for now. The next two options are generally needed for GDPR regulations. Under these regulations, a user may request you to send them all the data that your website has collected about them. This can be done in the Export Personal Data tool by entering their email address. The regulation also allows the user to request that you delete any data stored on your website about them. This is done in the Erase Personal Data tool. Once again, you will enter the user's email address and select the Send Request button. The Settings menu is where I can change many of the preferences for my website. I will visit it now in the Dashboard menu. In the General settings, I can set things like the site title and tagline, time zone, date formats, admin email address, membership, and language preferences for my site. The writing settings are used to assign a default post category, formatting, and options to post via email. The latter can be a bit tricky and could lead to drafts being created by unwanted authors and bots, so it should be used with caution. The reading settings are most often used to assign a homepage and the page you wish to become an archive for blog posts. The number of posts displayed in the archive may also be set. The last option on this page is for search engine visibility. Here, you may discourage search engines from indexing your site. This is helpful while designing your website, but should be turned off once you are ready to go live. The discussion settings are used if you wish to allow comments on your website. While comments can be a great way for visitors to interact with your site, they are also often abused by bots and spammers. You should only use comments if you need them and have time to moderate them. The media settings allow you to adjust the dimensions of images that are auto-generated when you add media to your library. You can also use the option to organize your media in month and year-based folders on your server. This can be helpful if your website has hundreds or thousands of images. The permalink settings are an important way for your URLs to be displayed in the browser. WordPress offers the ability to create a custom URL structure for your permalinks and archives. Custom URLs can improve the aesthetics, usability, and forward compatibility of your links. It is best to leave this as the default post name option if you are not familiar with the system. The privacy settings allow you to create and assign a privacy policy page for your website. This is a page for all the legal terms for your visitors and is required in many countries. Before we get started with learning Elementor, we need to do one more step in WordPress. This is related to the posts that we will use for the podcast episodes. Since we are using our posts to display the podcast episodes, I'll need to enable the WordPress custom fields. But what are custom fields? They are a feature that allow you to add additional information to posts. These fields allow users to add metadata, which is information about the data in the post, without altering the primary content of the post itself. Elementor makes it simple to display this data using dynamic tags. These can be as simple as a text field you wish to display in an Elementor heading, or in our case, the URL of the podcast to be called in the Elementor SoundCloud widget. While there are plugins such as advanced custom fields that will handle a broad range of fields, in many cases, you only need one or two simple fields. For this, you can use the native WordPress custom fields. You just need to enable them. Let's enable custom fields for our posts. I will return to my Hello World post from the post library in the WordPress dashboard and select it to open in the WordPress editor. We won't need to add any content to this post as we will soon be deleting it. For now, I only wish to create a custom field for my podcast URL. To do this, I'll locate the vertical ellipsis, these three dots, located in the top right of the editor near the Publish and Update button. In the drop-down list, I'll select the Preferences option. In the Preferences modal window, I'll select the Panels option. Here is where I can toggle the Custom Fields option to the On position and allow it to save and refresh the editor. I'll now see the Custom Fields editor below the Content editor. These will contain two form fields, a name field and a value field. For the name field, I'll enter audio URL. This will be used to identify the field in the Elementor tags as the key. For the value, I can enter any URL address, as this will only be a temporary placeholder to get us started. Each time a new post is created, I'll now be able to select this custom field key and enter the URL address of my podcast. I'll now save the changes to my post by selecting the Update button and confirming my changes. Now that we have set up the custom field, I'll now create a few new podcast posts. When creating websites that use posts as the primary feature, it is important to first create a few posts in order to be able to then design the relevant templates and pages. In a separate tab, I'll visit my Spotify or SoundCloud library that hosts my podcast episodes. I'll need to keep this open in order to retrieve the content and podcast URLs for my custom fields. Next, I'll then create a new post by selecting the button labeled Add New. I first need to give my new post a title. I'll use the same name that was used at Spotify or SoundCloud. I'll then locate the excerpt field located in the right side of the panel of the WordPress editor and add a short description of the podcast. If I wish to have different categories for my podcast, I can add them to the categories field. Since my archive and other grids will use a player rather than a featured image, adding one to the post is strictly optional. In the primary content region of the WordPress editor, I should include the transcript or other content to accompany the podcast. Providing written content for my podcast will improve the SEO of my website, since search engine bots cannot listen to my content. I will quickly paste some placeholder content here for the purpose of this tutorial. Lastly, I'll now view my podcast located at Spotify or SoundCloud. For this tutorial, we are using Spotify, and locate the sharing options. From here, I need to get the URL of the audio file. This can be found by selecting the ellipsis located in the sharing options and then selecting it in the drop-down menu. Copy the URL and then return to the WordPress post. At the bottom of the post is our custom field section we created earlier. In the drop-down name field, I'll select the podcast URL option. Then I'll paste the URL of the audio file in the value field. I can then publish my post by selecting the button located in the top right of the editor and confirm it. If I view my post right now, it will look pretty plain and basic, but don't worry, we will customize this in the upcoming lessons. I'll return to the posts library. I'll go ahead and repeat these steps a few more times in order to generate some starter content for our website. That should be enough to get us started. We can now move on to the next lesson and learn a bit about Elementor. In the WordPress dashboard, visit the Pages library. Locate the sandbox page we created earlier in the list and hover over it. Then select the Edit with Elementor link. Once the page loads, you will notice that it is primarily an empty page with only the header, footer, and title of the page. There are a set of tool panels to the left and right on the page. On the left is where you will find the widgets, such as headings, images, text, buttons, and so much more. This is called the widget panel. Once the widget is on the page and selected, this panel will display all the settings and styles for it. On the right is the structure panel. This will display all the containers and widgets that are on your page. It's a great way to stay organized, as you'll learn soon. We will begin by clicking on the plus icon on the page. From here, we will select the layout for our new section using containers. A container holds all the widgets for a section on your website. You may choose a single parent container or a layout with multiple child containers, depending on what you wish to create. Let's begin with the dual containers option. This features a parent container with two child containers placed side by side. Once it has been added, you'll see the settings for the parent container. At the top, you will see the layout, style, and advanced settings. This will be similar for all other widgets as well. In the layout section, you will define the size and how the contents are displayed. At the top, you can set the width of its content to be boxed with margins or extend to the edges of the container. The sliders for the width and height can be used to fine-tune this. Next, we have the options for direction. Vertical direction is known as a column, and horizontal direction is a row, similar to how spreadsheet tables are displayed. The other tools determine how we like the contents to be aligned and justified with the container. If you are using a row, you may also set whether the widgets wrap onto the next line or shrink to fit. The Style tab is used to set the background colors or images, overlays, borders, and shape dividers of your container. The Advanced tab contains margins, paddings, and other specialized features. Feel free to explore these more on your own by using the documentation in the Elementor Help Center. Let's start filling our containers with some basic widgets that are used most frequently. The first widget is a heading widget. Headings are generally the title of the section's content. I will drag it with my mouse to the left child container. It comes with some sample text. You'll notice that the left panel now shows the Content, Style, and Advanced tab, similar to our container. I can edit the text from the panel or by selecting the text and editing it right on the page. You may notice that I have an option that says Write with AI. It can be used to generate text and other content for your website. I will use it now to create a 4-word slogan for my section. By selecting the new prompt option, I can now tell the AI to generate this by entering a prompt in the field. Use the tips located in the window to help you get started. There, all done generating. I can then select the Use Text button and apply it to my heading. Pretty neat, huh? You can use the prompt library from the link below. It is a great start if you're new to using AI. From the Content tab, you can also link your heading to another page on your site and define the default size. The HTML tags are used to set the content hierarchy. The H1 is generally the title of the page or post. The H2 is a new parent section in the content. The H3 is a new child section inside the H2, and so on. You may have already been using these when using text document creation tools like Microsoft Word or Google Docs and writing emails. Lastly, in the Content tab is the alignment options for the headings. These will override the alignment setting in your container. Next is the Style tab. From here, we can set the color, font family, and size of the text, as well as other styling like adding a stroke or shadow to the heading. To change the color of the text, you simply use the color picker here, or use a global style color by selecting the little globe icon. We will look at the global color options in the next lesson. Similar to the colors in the typography, here you can set the font family, sizing, and other options individually or by their global settings. The Advanced tab is the same for all widgets and allows you to fine-tune the paddings and margins and so much more. Since our kit has much of the design already created for you, We will not be using this tab much in the tutorial. Let's now drag a text editor to our page. I can edit the text the same way as my heading by the panel or directly on my page. The widget uses many of the same formatting options you have seen when writing emails and other applications. I can also use the AI tool here to help me generate text when needed, as I will do now to invite visitors to dine with us. I can also make my generated text longer or shorter if needed. Once again, the text can be further edited in the Style and Advanced tab. Let's now drag a button widget to the container and place it below the text. In the Content tab, I can edit the text of the button, link it to a page on my site, like the contact page or an external URL. Change the size and alignment of the button. In the Style tab, I'm able to change the typography and colors of my button. Next, I will add an image to the right child container. By selecting the Choose Image option, I can select a file from my media library or add a new one by dragging it from my local drive to the library as we did earlier. I may also use AI tools to generate an image for me. Let's do that now. I will select the AI icon to open the prompt modal. From here, I will enter a prompt to create an image of a woman with headphones and select the Generate Images button. The AI tools will generate 4 images for me to choose from. I like this one, so I will select the Use Image button. I will now select the image again to add my alt tags and descriptions. In the Style tab, I can customize the image further by changing the sizes and opacity settings, but it already looks great, so let's leave it as is. Now that we have a bit of content in our containers, let's go back to the parent container properties by selecting the editing handle. I'll now increase the height of the container to 700 pixels by using the minimum height properties. I would also like to center my content both vertically and horizontally. To center the content vertically, I'll just use the Justify Content property. Here I can select the center option and my content will now be aligned. I can center the content horizontally by using the Align Items property. Once again, using the center option, there we go. Our content is now centered within the container. We can now take a look at the responsive tools that Elementor features. We will enable the responsive editor at the top. Since we have already been updating the desktop view, I will select the tablet view. From here, I'd like to decrease the height of my container a bit. I will change the 700 pixels to 575 pixels. I would also like to add a bit of padding to the edges. This is done in the Advanced tab. I do not need much, 5 pixels should do fine. Let's now edit the mobile view. Once again, I'll change the container height. This time, I'll change it to 500 pixels. By default, our child containers have become stacked. However, I wish to place the image at the top. I can change the direction of the parent container to column reverse. There, looks great. I encourage you to use this sample page to learn how all the widgets function and play with ideas. It may be deleted from the dashboard once you are ready to go live. Now that you have a better understanding of how the Elementor editor functions and we have added our blog content, let's get to work and make some stylistic and content changes to really transform the website. You'll now learn how Elementor manages global styling settings like colors and fonts. It's a good idea to configure the global colors and fonts, as it provides a means of updating these aspects across the entire website with just a few clicks, as opposed to manually changing these on a page-by-page basis. While still editing my sample page, in the top left, if I select the Site Settings icon, I can then navigate to the Site Settings. The side panel will then display a wide variety of settings for my website. To get started, I'll select the Global Colors option. The canvas will now display a style guide that shows all the colors and fonts used on my website in an organized fashion. If I wish to see the changes on my page instead, I can select the Style Guide Preview toggle and turn it off. By default, any Elementor installation will always have these 4 system colors which define the primary, secondary, body text, and accent. These colors are already applied to many of the widgets in my kit, so I'll have a base to start from. Changing a global color is done by simply selecting it and amending the color picker. I will change my primary text and secondary to a dark black. Next, I will change the accent color. This controls the color of links on my kit. Let's change this from a bright green to a nice pink. Let's turn the style guide off again so that we can see our changes. As you can see, the button now uses a pink accent color. I can also add additional custom colors by selecting the Add Color button. I can then name the color and then select the color in the picker or manually enter a value. Let's now learn about the global fonts for Elementor. I'll now once again return to the main site settings by pressing the back arrow and choosing the global fonts option. Very similar to the global colors, I have system fonts for the primary, secondary, body text, and accent. Editing a global font is done by selecting the pencil icon, which opens up the typography window. To change a font family, simply select a new one from the drop-down. For this example, I will select the primary font and change it to Poppins. Rather than scrolling through the list of all the fonts, you can enter the name of the font in the search box to save time. There are also other customization options which I can see here, such as sizing and weight. So be sure to experiment with these options to find the right configuration for your requirements. Each and every setting I apply here can also be overridden on a manual basis to an individual widget if I ever have the need to in its Style tab. We will also set the body text to Poppins, as this one works really well for the style of website we're creating. I will set the remaining fonts to Poppins. Similar to custom colors, we can also create additional font styles by selecting the Add Style button. I will create a style and name it Big Hero. I will keep the font family Poppins. I will also change the weight to bold and set the size to 60 pixels. Let's save our changes at the bottom and briefly return to the editor. I can now select my heading and navigate to its Style tab. In the typography settings, I will select my global icon and choose the Big Hero option. This will now use the style I created in my global fonts. Looks great. I will now publish my changes and return to the site settings. Let's now navigate to the site identity area. Here, I'm able to specify my site name, tagline, logo, and favicon. Since my site name is already correct, I'll go ahead and edit the site's tagline. Next, I can add a site logo and favicon. Since my site uses text rather than a logo, I will only add the favicon. The favicon is a small logo that is displayed in the browser tab. I will do this by adding them to my media library as we did previously. And head back to the editing screen by selecting the cross icon, and preview what our page looks like. The site will now use my tagline in the header when the editor is reloaded. I will then exit the editor and return to the dashboard. You will notice that the site now uses my favicon rather than the WordPress logo. Now that we have an idea of how Elementor works, it is time to add some pages to our website. We will only need a few for this site. In this chapter, we will create the home page. Let's get started. To add a new page, I'll navigate to the Pages tab in the WordPress dashboard and select the Add New option. A modal will appear on the screen that asks me to name my page. I will enter Home in the field and select the Save button. Elementor will then redirect me to my new page in the editor. I will move my structure panel to the right side and dock it so that it remains locked in this position to make it easier in editing. The next step is to add some content. Here, I will use some pre-made blocks from Elementor to save time. In the main editor panel, I will select the folder icon. A modal will appear with the template library. From here, I'll scroll down and select a block that has the layout I wish to use. I like this one. I will select the Insert option link and it will be imported to my page. Before I begin customizing it, I wish to remove the page title from the page as it will not be used. This can be done by selecting the gear icon in the center of the top bar. This will open the page settings in the left panel. Here, I can find the Hide Page Title option. The page title will now disappear. Let's begin editing the content. If I select the text in this hero section, I can see that it uses the Call to Action widget. In the properties, I'll now edit the title and the description and replace the text with something I have written. You may also use the AI option if you need some inspiration. I will now edit the text for the button. Since I have not created my other pages, I will leave the URL blank for now. We can edit this once the pages have been created. For the next section, I wish to have a short description about my site. I will first select the folder icon and then choose a block that best fits my design. I like this one, so I'll select the Insert button. The next section we need for our homepage is one of the most important and trickiest to design. In this section, I wish to show a grid of the 4 latest podcast episodes. To do this, I'll use the Loop Grid Builder of Elementor. Let's get started. First, I need a good foundation for my section that uses the same style as my other sections, so I will once again select the folder icon and find a block that will be suitable. Let's insert it. The block has a 50-50 layout and has a nice heading and tagline. For the content, I will be editing the icon box widget. I will first remove the icon. I will hover over it and select the trash can icon to remove it. Next, I will replace the description text. I can change the alignment from centered to left aligned in the Style tab, Box Properties. I would now like to add a button to this container that will direct visitors to visit the other podcast episodes. To do this, I will drag a button widget below the icon box widget and edit the text. In the link, I will leave this blank for now. We will be adding a podcast page in our next chapter to link this button to. For the size, I would like to set this to the large option in the dropdown. I can then use the Style tab, change the button background, border outline, and border radius to match my other buttons on the site. Next, I would like to remove the pink gradient in this section as I prefer it all to be white. This can be done in the parent container. I will select the parent container and then navigate to its Style tab. Here, I will edit the background settings and change it to my global white color. In this block template, we chose the right side, featuring 4 images of team members. This is where we will build our podcast grid. I'll begin by removing the 4 image widgets by right selecting and then use the delete option. In order to display my podcasts, I will now drag the Loop Grid widget to this container. The Loop Grid allows you to create a completely customized template for your website's post cards. Instead of using a featured image as most grids use, we're going to use the player that allows your visitors to listen to the podcast. In order to give us a bit more room on the screen, I will close the structure panel for now. The Loop Grid widget allows you to choose a loop template that you have created in the theme builder or create one right on the page, which is what we will do. I will select the Create a Template button. A container will now be added for us to place widgets into. Let's begin by dragging the SoundCloud widget to our loop template. This will be the audio player for our podcasts. Even though it is called the SoundCloud widget, it also accepts Spotify URLs. Earlier, we created a custom field in WordPress to add an audio URL. We can now use this custom field to show our podcasts. In the SoundCloud widget link settings, select the dynamic tag icon. In the drop-down list, select the Post Custom Field option. In the key field, I will enter the name of our custom field, which is audio URL. In order to see how this will work, I will select the Save and Back option. The editor will reload this section and populate it with a grid of 9 podcast players with my latest episode posts. I wish to only show the latest 4 posts on my page. This can be done by selecting the loop grid and editing the number of rows and columns to a value of 2. There, that looks better. I will now edit the loop template again and add a post title widget. I can change the size of the font in the Style tab. Next, I will add an excerpt widget, and in the dynamic tag settings, change the number of words to about 12. In the advanced settings, I can also add an ellipsis after the text field. I will also use the Style tab to make the text a little bit smaller to match the title. As I am designing, I notice that the gap between the elements is a bit large, making my template bigger vertically than I wish. I can edit the gap and alignment properties in the container layout properties to tighten this up a bit, like so. It is now time to add some buttons. The first one, I will link to the post so that it opens the full content. I can do this by dragging a button widget below the excerpt. And in the URL, I will select the dynamic tags and choose the post URL option. I can then style the button. I'd like it to be the full width of my template. I can set this in the alignment properties. From here, I will select the justify option. Next, I'll change the background and font color for the normal and hover state in the Style tab. We can now add some revenue for our website by using the PayPal button widget. I will drag this below the first button. In the settings, I'll need to add the email address of the recipient. This should already be set up in PayPal to accept funds. In the transaction type, I will select donation in the drop-down. I will give the item a name to identify it in PayPal. For the donation amount, I will choose the Any Amount option so that visitors can contribute whatever amount they wish. In the Button Properties tab, I can change the alignment and the button text. I will then use the Style tab to make the button look like our other one. I can now select the Save and Back option on my template again to see how it looks. I will toggle the editor's side panels to show the full view. There, it looks great. The final section of my homepage is a hero that invites visitors to subscribe for updates. I will select the folder icon once again, and then pick a suitable block to insert. This one has all the parts I need. I'll begin once again by removing the pink gradient in the background of the parent container in its Style tab. Then I will edit the text of the 2 headings. The text editor and the button. Let's now collapse the editor panels and preview what our page looks like. Amazing. I will select the Publish button and then exit the editor to get back to the dashboard. I will now add an About page from the Add New option in the WordPress dashboard and enter its name. When the page loads, I see it displays my page title as a header. I can disable this by selecting the gear icon, then in the Page Settings panel, toggle the Hide Title option. We can now use the editor to create and design using the skills we have learned. I will repeat this to add a contact page. Lastly, I need to create one more page. This one will be named Podcasts. We do not need to add content to this page, as it will become the archive that displays our posts. Once a page is set up as an archive, it no longer needs to be edited directly in Elementor. It will use the template that we will be creating in the theme builder in just a few minutes. I will simply hide the page title and then publish the page. When we created the website in the Elementor Dashboard, it created a blank page named Sample Homepage and assigned it to be the homepage of your website. I wish to display the homepage we created instead. This may be done in several locations, but I'll show you the primary one. In the WordPress dashboard, I will navigate to the Settings tab and then select the Reading settings. I will select the Homepage option, and in the drop-down list, I will choose the homepage that we created. Next, we also need to assign the page that we want to display our posts, or in our case, podcast. I will once again use the drop-down menu and choose the podcast page we created. Once your website is live, you should return here and uncheck the box that discourages search engines from indexing your website in the search engine visibility options. I will save my changes and return to the main dashboard screen. Now that we have created all our pages, we can now add them to the header menu. In the WordPress dashboard, I'll head over to the Appearances menu. From here, I'll select the Menus option. From this screen, I can create menus and add pages as well as other links to them. With my primary menu already created by Elementor's hosting, I will now add my created pages. To add a new item, I can simply select it from the list here and choose Add to Menu. Additional items can also be added to the menu, such as posts, custom links, and post categories. I can also automatically add top-level pages to the menu when they are created, as well as assign them a location in my theme. Remember to select the Save button to publish the changes to the menu. You may have heard about WordPress themes. They fetch the content from your database and display it visually. Themes control the layout, colors, fonts, and general structure of your WordPress website. For many years, these were hard-coded and difficult for non-technical users to modify. This is why there are so many themes to choose from. This was before page builders like Elementor became the new way to build websites. When the Elementor theme builder is used, its templates use the same structure and good practices as WordPress. This is a much simpler way to create a custom theme of your very own. From the WordPress dashboard, let's take a look at the theme builder by going to the Templates menu. From here, we can select the Theme Builder. When the page loads, I can see the site parts listed in the side panel. Let's learn what each of these are. The header shows at the top of the website and usually consists of your company's logo or name and a navigation menu. It is also a good place for a phone number or address so that your visitors can find you quickly on every page. The footer appears at the bottom of the page. It generally consists of a logo and a directory of pages. It is also a good place to put a copyright and links to legal pages, such as the terms of service. The single post displays the full content of a post once selected in the archive or reached from a link online. The single page displays the full content of a page of your website. It's not very important on small websites with only a few pages. However, it is a huge time saver on large websites with dozens of pages. It allows you to have a consistent layout for all the pages. The Post Archive is a list or grid that displays all the posts on your website. If your site uses categories, it will display only the posts that are related to that category. Think of a news site. When you click on sports, you only see articles about sports. Search results. This is similar to an archive page. It will display a list or a grid of content that is relevant to a term that is searched for. It's a good place to include a search or navigation to get them pointed back in the right direction. In the main part of my screen, I can see a small preview of the site parts that I have created. For now, I only have the podcast loop item. Let's create a few more. Starting in the Theme Builder, I will select the Header tab in the left panel. Since I have not created any yet, it will prompt me to create a new one. I will select the Add New link at the top right. Once the editor loads, A modal will appear with several pre-made options. Since I wish to create my own header, I will close the modal with the X icon. I will first create a new container by selecting the plus icon. I will choose the single horizontal row option for my layout. It is now time to set it up. In the content width option, I'll select the full width option in the drop-down. Next, I'll set the height of the container by dragging the slider or entering a value in the field. I will enter 100 pixels in the value. The direction of the container has already been set to row, but I can change this if needed. I wish to have 2 widgets in my container placed evenly at the left and right edges. This is done by selecting the space between option in the Justify Content properties. To center things vertically in the container, I will use the Align Items property and then choose the center icon. Let's move to the Style tab. Here, I will set the background color to my global white. I will now move to the Advanced tab. Since I use the Justify Content property, in the layout settings, my widgets will be placed to the left and right edges. I will give them a bit of padding. 100 pixels should do the trick. I wish this header to remain on the top of the page as the visitor scrolls. This is known as sticky. Before I do this, I need to make sure that my content does not scroll over the menu. This is accomplished with the Z-index property. Enter a value in the field. Many web creators put a value of 999 here, just to make sure it's always on top. I will now make the header sticky. This is done in the Motion Effects tab. I'll navigate to the sticky property and then select the top option in the drop-down. You will then notice that I can choose to enable or disable this for tablets and mobile if I wish. I will leave them for now. It is now time to add my widgets. I will first choose the site title widget and drag it to my header. It will use our container setting and display on the left side centered vertically and with 100 pixel padding. This looks great as it is. I will not style it further. Next, I'll add a WordPress menu widget to my container. In the Layout tab, I'll use the primary menu we created, or I can select a different one I create. I will now set the alignment of the text to the right icon. In the Style tab, I will reduce the size of the text in the typography settings. 20 pixels works well for this design. My header is now complete. Let's now publish our changes. When I select this for the first time, it will prompt me to set the display conditions for the header. From here, I can configure it with a wide range of options to keep it simple. I will now exit the editor and return to the dashboard. I will then view my site. Wow, it's really starting to take shape. If I scroll down, I can see my header is sticky and working as it should. I will now teach you how to create a footer section in the Theme Builder. From the WordPress dashboard, I will navigate to the Templates tab and then select the Theme Builder. When the page loads, I can now see my header and podcast loop items displayed. I will select the Footer tab and then the Add New link. It will once again prompt me to choose a pre-made template. In the filter, I will deselect the footer options as I wish to see all the blocks. I will scroll down till I see the blocks that fit our branding. This block is perfect for our footer, so I will select the Insert button. I would first like to remove the pink gradient background. I can do this in the Style tab of the parent container. Next, let's edit the content. I will begin by editing the icon box here. I can manually enter a heading like so. However, I wish to use the dynamic tags. In the title field, I'll select the dynamic tag icon and choose the site title in the drop-down list. I will do the same for the description field, choosing the site tagline. My footer template uses several other widgets, including a form, icon boxes, and social sharing. Let's edit the social icons to be a bit smaller. I can do this by selecting them and then navigating to their Style tab. I will reduce them to 20 pixels in the size property. My footer design is now complete. I will return here later to edit the addresses, email, and phone options. Let's publish the changes and set the display conditions as before. Earlier, we created a blank page called Podcasts and set it to be the archive page in the reading settings. An archive automatically pulls the recent posts and displays them in a list or grid. Selecting one of the items takes me to the full article. The full article uses a theme template called the singular or single post template. We will need to create these templates in the Elementor theme builder. Let's begin with the archive. From the WordPress dashboard and navigate to our theme builder. This time, we will select the archive option and add a new one. This will load the editor and block library. From here, I will scroll down to our brands blocks and choose this block as this has the layout I wish to use. This block has 2 headings, a text editor, and a button widget on the left hand and an icon widget on the right. I will begin by editing the headings and text editor with my own content. I will then delete the button as I do not need it. I will leave the icon as it matches my branding. Let's add a new section for our podcast. I'll select the plus icon and choose a vertical container. In the widget library, I will drag a loop grid widget to this new container. Since we already created a loop item for the podcast earlier, I can now type its name into the Choose a Template field. The loop grid will now use my podcast loop item. If I wish to create a different template to use, I can do that as well. I can set the number of columns and rows based on how it looks best. I will leave the 3 columns and change the rows value to 12. I can change the value based on personal preferences. Let's now publish our changes. I will set the display conditions to all archives. If I visit the website now and then navigate to my podcast, I can now see my archive template in action. I can make additional edits to the loop item and pagination if needed. It is now time to create the single post template. This will be displayed when the visitor clicks View Transcript. Most often, your visitors will find these posts when they search for a certain term or a podcast in a search engine. They will also be shared on social media. We will now return to the theme builder and create a new single post template. When the editor opens, the block library is displayed. I will scroll down and choose the same block that we used earlier in the archive, as it works great for this template as well. I will select the Insert button. I will use the Dynamic Tags option in the headings and text. I will first select the top heading and in the Dynamic Tag options, choose the Post Date tag. I will then select the second heading and choose the Post Title Dynamic tag. The text editor widget will be used to call the Post Excerpt tag. There, we are on our way. We now need to add the SoundCloud widget. I will first select the icon widget and then delete it by right-clicking. I can then drag the container widget to where it was. This can be a little tricky sometimes. You can use the structure panel to help. There, I got it. In the Container Layout tab, I'll select the Content Width property to full width, and then use the slider to set the width to 50%. Next, I'll drag the SoundCloud widget into the container from the widget panel. In the link property, I will set the dynamic tag to use my post custom field and key, the same as we did in the loop grid. It will now display our latest podcast and play if selected. Let's add the PayPal widget as we did in the loop item so that we can monetize our podcast posts. I will drag this widget in below my audio player and configure its settings and style. I will now create a new container section below that will contain the body of our post. For this layout, I'll choose the vertical container layout. I will first drag the heading widget and edit the text to read transcript. Next, I will drag the content widget to the container. This is a very important widget when designing a single post or page template, as this is where all the WordPress and Elementor editable content is displayed. It must be used somewhere on your template. In my example, it will only show the placeholder Latin I used in my sample posts. There, all done for now. Let's publish our template. I will once again be prompted to choose the display conditions. This time, I'll choose the posts option in the drop-down. Leaving the singular option selected would apply the template to pages as well, since they are the top level in WordPress hierarchy. Let's visit our website again. I can now select a podcast post and view its single post layout. Now that we have completed all the editing, it's now time to begin the final steps making our site live. Let's go back to our account page on the My Elementor dashboard. The first thing is the domain name. When I purchased and set up my Elementor hosting package, I was assigned a temporary domain name. However, I want to use my own domain name. If you have not yet purchased a domain name, you can do so from any popular domain name providers such as GoDaddy, Namecheap, Bluehost, and many others. Once you have purchased a domain name, it can take a few hours before it's ready to use. Let me show you how this works. This is all done in the Elementor dashboard. From the website management page of my Elementor dashboard, I'll select the Buy a Domain option. This will redirect me to the Hover Domains website. Since I already have an account with them, I will already be signed in. You may need to create an account using the on-screen steps they provide. I can now enter the domain name I wish to purchase. The system will check to make sure that it's available. Once you have found an available name, you can add it to your cart and complete your purchase. Once your payment has been processed, you will be prompted to automatically connect it to Elementor. This process only takes a moment, and you'll be directed back to your Elementor dashboard. You'll be notified that your custom domain has been assigned. It can take a few hours to finish propagating around the globe. This process could take up to 48 hours in rare cases. That's it. Elementor will send me an email when the process is finalized and what the next steps are. Once this is done, I'll return to the Elementor dashboard and the Manage Domain screen. From here, I will select the Make Primary Link. This will take a few seconds to complete. Once finished, the primary link will show beside my new custom domain. My site will now use the new name as the default rather than the Elementor one. Once my website is ready with my new name, it is now time to allow others to see my site. This is done by turning off the Site Lock feature. Navigate to the Site Lock settings in the Website Management Overview screen, and then switch the toggle for the Site Lock settings to the off position. Confirm the modal message that asks me if I'm ready to go live with your site. My website is now live. I can now begin sharing this website with others. This is the end of my tutorial on how to build a podcast website using Elementor. I hope you've picked up some valuable skills along the way. Below, I have included a few links that dive deeper into a few of the steps in greater detail. I would love to see your podcast website creations in the comments below. As always, please subscribe to my channel to learn more about using WordPress and Elementor together to create websites for yourself and clients. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.